Hey, it's Mike here, and today, an interesting case of high cholesterol in a younger fitness influencer. Yes, the other day I was scrolling through TikTok in moderation, and into my feed came this massively viewed, like 4 million people, liked by 750,000 people video of this 19-year-old TikToker saying, I have high cholesterol.
Yesterday, I received a call from my doctor. She said I had high cholesterol. Bruh, what? I thought that was something only 65-year-olds had to deal with, not 19-year-olds.
She says her doctor called to tell her about this, but her response to me was very interesting. She ignores her doctor and her doctor's advice, some of it she's already doing, to be fair, and then just sort of laughs off the idea of high cholesterol.
I'm not mad about the high cholesterol thing, it's kind of funny.
And then on top of that, we have this comment section making a bunch of very well-liked claims as well that I just absolutely have to respond to. You know, did working out raise her cholesterol? Was it genetics? Was it because she had an eating disorder? And I do want to say I'm going to try to be very sensitive in this video because she had an eating disorder. I'm having to talk about some food-related things. We're going to be looking at what she's eating, but I want to do it in as healthy of a way as possible. Either way, it's just a tough situation. So we're going to look at a bunch of science and respond to her line of reasoning as to why she isn't going to do anything about her high cholesterol. Let's go. The TikToker is Chase M. Bird, and it took me way too long to figure out how to pronounce Chase. This site did not help.
Chas.
Chasey.
Chase.
I also almost just didn't want to make this video because who am I to just talk about what a random 19-year-old young woman is eating? But then because of her massive following, because of her making this public, and because of people's response to this, and my master's in public health, I just had to do my duty. Okay, let's get to the video where she talks about her doctor's recommendations.
Didn't bother to explain what any of this meant, and the only thing she said was, and I quote, "This will need to be monitored, but in the meantime, you have to start working out more, and you need to be eating even healthier."
The main recommendations by her doctor are to exercise and eat healthy, but to be completely fair, it's clear that her doctor was not aware that she's already a fitness person who runs a ton.
That is where the issue lies. Like, bro, on average, I already run 7 miles a day. So say I implement what she recommended I do, and that is to work out more. Do I start running 12 miles a day?
So I understand why she was annoyed by this. Clearly her doctor had not communicated with her about her actual lifestyle, but because the average person does not exercise nearly that much for about 95% of her doctor's patients, it would be really good advice. And perhaps her cholesterol would be even higher if she wasn't exercising as much, and we'll touch on the research on that. But what about her response to the diet aspect of that?
Do I begin to cut out all of the foods that I have finally allowed myself to start enjoying again? Just for sharks and giggles, say I do that, and in 6 months my cholesterol is down, that's great. However, I probably have some knee and joint issues and definitely an eating disorder relapse due to cutting out certain food groups and starting to obsess over the calories I was putting into my body. But also, say I do that, and in 6 months my cholesterol is the exact same.
So it is her belief that if she cuts out food groups, certain types of food, she's going to relapse on her eating disorder and destroy her relationship with food. Now, the extent and type of her eating disorder isn't exactly just right there in her bio, but it appears to be more bulimia oriented, of binging on food and purging from what I've gathered. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I wouldn't even want to focus on what type of eating disorder she has, but it actually is relevant in terms of the cholesterol research that we're going to cover in a bit. But let's keep going with her video on the topic of cholesterol. Here she is.
And if I'm being entirely honest, I knew nothing about this, so I did start to panic and I thought, oh my god, I'm gonna drop dead of a heart attack in the near future.
When I was 19, I was not concerned about cholesterol at all either, but just for some quick background, cholesterols are lipoproteins, meaning fat and protein, and there are a few types. Of course, you have your HDL or good cholesterol and your LDL or bad cholesterol. And your total cholesterol score is comprised of those two, as well as triglycerides to an extent. Looking at the actual equation here, we have LDL cholesterol plus HDL cholesterol plus 20% of your triglyceride number. And really, LDL is the one that I'm always talking about and most focused on because, again, it's bad cholesterol, and it's the one that as we age penetrates our artery wall and with oxidation over time creates those lesions, which if they pop, that is what causes a heart attack or stroke. And then of course, over time as that builds up, we get the narrowing of arteries and lower blood delivery to our tissues.
I'm not mad about the high cholesterol thing, it's kind of funny. What I'm mad about is her telling me I need to work out more and eat healthier when I am already doing that.
I think with a little bit more knowledge, she might think that cholesterol being high is not funny. I mean, it's a major contributor to our leading cause of death. High LDL cholesterol is causally linked to atherosclerosis. And that's tied to everything from spinal disc degeneration and erectile dysfunction or sexual dysfunction even in women, as well as Alzheimer's and just on and on. Yes, eating disorders are no joke and they have risks. They can even cause death, but we have to put it into perspective. All eating disorder deaths in the US comes in at around 10,000 per year. But looking just at heart disease, which is one type of cardiovascular disease, which can be made worse from high cholesterol, that's 700,000 deaths per year. And the last scary point about cholesterol that I'll make here is just more specific. That's this 2020 study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, which found that having high LDL earlier in life poses a unique 3 times higher heart attack risk in middle age.
What I'm mad about is her telling me I need to work out more and eat healthier when I am already doing that. Like, bro, be for real, there's another reason why my cholesterol is high.
Okay, moving on to those comments. There are a bunch of comments, including one saying that, if you have had an eating disorder, your cholesterol might just end up being higher. Now, there is a little bit of truth to this, so we got to get into the nuance, into the science here, but it depends on the type of eating disorder. First, we have what could be like a binging and purging, bulimia style, and then we have anorexia. There can be some crossover there, but let's focus on the binge eating one first. From the research, yes, women with bulimia do appear to have higher cholesterol of about 14 points higher. However, when you look at what they are eating, as this study did, quote, dietary analysis suggested that increased total cholesterol concentrations were related to cholesterol and fat intake during binge eating. In other words, quote, bulimic women have higher total cholesterol concentrations that are related to excess cholesterol and fat intake during binge eating. But again, credit to the commenters. There's some more truth here when it comes to anorexia, which I don't think applies to her, if I am correct. And that has to do with during anorexia through starvation, your cholesterol levels can actually go up. And in fact, on average, they do. There are a few theories on this. One is that your body is trying to turn cells over slower to maintain itself and therefore just leaving more cholesterol to hang around. However, another more backed one is that as your body is burning the fat that you're storing, cholesterol is released from that. This rat study actually radioactively tracked cholesterol, and it points to cholesterol being released from fat stores. Sorry, little Duke Nukem mice. However, another reason this once again does not apply to her is, as this paper mentions, in general, cholesterol levels in these patients tend to correct after weight recovery, and that research suggests that whatever the cause, these elevations resolve with weight gain. And from this paper, to corroborate that, in patients who regained their original weight, elevated cholesterol fell to normal levels, which was parallel to their weight increase. But again, I really don't think this applies to her. Just a quick scroll, like 3 years back on her Instagram, well into when she said she had an eating disorder. I mean, she always looked very strong. I don't think she was down to an anorexic weight that would increase her cholesterol levels. And even just for the sake of it, let's just pretend that she did have severe anorexia. She did get down to like a BMI well below normal. That would probably only account for about, again, a 15-point raise in cholesterol on average. And looking to just vegans in the US versus people that eat meat, we see about a 50-point difference in LDL alone. So not gonna cut it. And of course, it is possible to have an eating disorder recovery where you see a raise in LDL cholesterols, but that could also simply be from just eating more Western foods in a Western society, which we'll look into what she eats in a little bit. But first, I wanna address the other comments of like, oh, you're exercising. People who exercise, especially maybe if they had an eating disorder, will see cholesterol rise. One of the top comments is that endurance athletes can have higher cholesterol, but from this study of 7,000 runners, more running equaled lower LDL or bad cholesterol. And from this review on 11 studies found that generally aerobic exercise lowers cholesterol. What about weightlifting? It also appears that she does lift weights quite a bit. This review on different types of exercise found that generally there is also a lowering in LDL with weight training. For example, here's one study that found a 10-point drop. No, exercise doesn't increase cholesterol, and it's possible, like I said, that it's helping her situation by exercising. She could be even worse off if she didn't. And I feel like the idea that cholesterol increases as you lift weights or whatever is probably just a TikTok myth spread by people who might have seen their cholesterol rise after deciding to slam down a bunch of animal protein and therefore saturated animal fat, which raises LDL cholesterol, and been like cholesterol goes up. And really quick, there were also quite a few comments about genetics, but as a lot of people say, genetics are the loaded gun, but lifestyle and diet choices pull the trigger.
You start by realizing that within minutes of eating anything, molecules of that food are flowing through every cell in your body where your DNA lies unfolded. And as those food molecules wash through your cells and they wash over your DNA, they play your DNA molecule like a piano. And they turn genes on, they turn genes off. They induce enzymes, they shut enzymes down. Every meal changes us.
From this paper, a lot of genes are only going to be responsible for about 5 points or so of cholesterol. Heck, even a 1 in a million gene results in just about 20 points higher. Again, less than half the difference between vegan and meat eater. All right, now this is where we have to be, honest and just ask, what is she actually eating, which she does share, and where I need to also be very careful to not be offensive or triggering. And you might have noticed I've been making no jokes in this video. Normally I'm making a lot of jokes. That's how hard I'm trying. Yeah, we're about to look over what a younger woman with a history of eating disorders eat, so I just ask everybody, please be respectful in the comments. And here is the first what I eat in a day video that I clicked on, which is once again her 1 year eating disorder recovery video. Yeah, I gotta be really careful here. She starts off with juice, and I want to pause and not be judgmental here, but just remind people that fiber is really important when it comes to cholesterol. When your body dumps excess cholesterol into your small intestine, fiber is the train that gets it out of your body and prevents it from being reabsorbed. And of course, juice has no fiber.
I began my morning with a horrendous green juice that was too healthy for me, so I figured I would have pizza for breakfast instead.
Again, cheese is the single greatest source of saturated fat in the US diet. Saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol. Just telling it straight. Then she eats some chicken parmesan sliders on garlic knots. Then she has this piece of chocolate cake. Then she has a lamb hero, which is a sandwich made of baby sheep meat. Then she has green powder, then a peanut butter cookie, then the spring roll, which probably has meat, then fried calamari, which is octopus, then pork belly bao buns. Then she has her main course of a lobster sushi roll, and finally, ice cream, which is kind of decked out with chocolate. Now, I did do my best to conservatively estimate this in Chronometer, and I'm not even going to share the calorie content because that's not even what we're talking about here, but we have to look at the totals for saturated fat and cholesterol. Saturated fat came in at over 40 grams in a day, and the cholesterol intake was over 800 milligrams. The American Heart Association recommends what, for the average person comes out to be 13 grams a day, so she's over tripling that. And then in terms of that 800 milligrams of cholesterol, I have an entire video about how, yes, dietary cholesterol does raise blood levels of cholesterol, despite people trying to deny it. Yeah, that's pretty important, and it's clear that this is a standard American diet with some green powder in the middle. All right, now for one that just looking at what she ate, I thought it might have been a little bit higher, but we're looking at fiber total grams of the day at about just 18. Again, fiber is super important for cholesterol because it doesn't just absorb that cholesterol and get rid of it. It also, in some cases, is broken down by your gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acids, which are amazing. And they actually tell your liver to make less cholesterol as well. So 1-2 punch for cholesterol there. But if you're not getting enough fiber, like 97% of Americans aren't, it's not gonna happen. So at this point, I wanna be not even talking to her. She says she doesn't wanna be cutting out any foods. Maybe realizing the total cholesterol and saturated fat of what she eats, she might be open to it. But for other people who are open to changing their diet, I mean, just eating more plant foods means lower. We see, a stepwise reduction from people that eat meat to pescatarian to vegetarian and then vegan, who have essentially ideal levels of LDL cholesterol, in which studies like this show no progression of atherosclerosis. And that's just because they're eating way less saturated animal fat and they're getting all of that fiber and they're eating no dietary cholesterol. And of course, why studies like that by Dr. Esselstyn take people with advanced cardiovascular disease and essentially just stop it in its tracks when it comes to heart disease and stroke over 12 years. amazing stoof. So in the end, I guess this sparks an interesting question. If you're recovering from an eating disorder, what foods should you feel good about eating? Like, how unhealthy should somebody go until it's actually more damaging than the food they're afraid of not eating? You get what I'm saying? And in terms of those comments, yes, there's validity for cholesterol going up during eating disorders, but they don't seem to apply here, whether it's peak anorexic conditions or having bulimia and binge eating. Under normal conditions, when the eating disorder is resolved, cholesterol goes back to normal, unless, again, you're eating 800 milligrams of cholesterol and over 40 grams of saturated fat a day. Just the math will math and cholesterol will go up. But yeah, for those who find themselves in the same position, obviously go see your doctor, talk to your doctor about this and lifestyle changes and other changes that you can make. But again, a fully plant-based diet is an awesome way to tackle cholesterol. Last time I checked, my LDL was in the 50s. And let me know down below what you think about all of this. Don't worry, next video, I will make more obscene jokes for you guys, but I figured I'd just leave it like that. And of course, feel free to like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.